Yo.
You got me?
Yeah. So here's the deal. You always wear sunglasses indoors. And then every time that we've been recording where you're practically outdoors, you're getting blasted by the sun. This is the first time you've worn sunglasses in the appropriate environment.
It's I finally dialed it all in together. New year, new me.
I mean, I never even realized it until now, but every time we've done a podcast where you are in that room with the sun blasting you in the face, you've not worn sunglasses.
Man, see, I'm finally making good decisions.
Incredible.
Resolutions paying off.
I feel like one of those best decisions that you've made is for your health with athleticgreens.com/surf.
I'll tell you what I do every single morning in this new year, just like I did in the last year. Mix myself an Athletic Greens. And you know what I put in there, David Lee Scales?
No.
I put vitamin D drops in there. Because do you want to know what vitamin D does?
Don't say it.
It cures COVID.
Don't say it. It does not cure COVID. Great. Now we're going to either have to cancel this whole commercial or get sued.
No, but it's true though.
Two.
But I do think that there has been studies that vitamin D is essential in the fight against COVID.
That might be a true statement. Cures, not a true statement.
It doesn't cure it, but it helps somehow with COVID.
Your vitamin D dropper, I mean, it's you're gonna have to wear sunglasses in your kitchen while you're mixing it just because the vitamin D is so intense.
Bright and shiny like the sun itself.
Well, thank you, Athletic Greens, for keeping us healthy. For any of you listeners who want to get on the program, athleticgreens.com/surf.
How good do you feel when wonderful devoted friends and listeners text pictures of their Athletic Greens boxes showing up to their house? A whole health journey stretching out in front of them.
Yes, I feel great about it. It's exactly what happened 2 days ago for you and I. And in all transparency, the best way for our business to run is if 3 people benefit. You, in terms of it being a business, us, the sponsor, and the listener. And unless all 3, if it's just you and I benefiting, it's kind of not a great scenario. If it's just you and I and the sponsor benefiting, not a great scenario. But if the listener and the sponsor and us are all synergistic, because we're all friends and we all want to do this thing that is surf, and this is the way to best do it.
Thank you, Athletic Greens. I would not give anyone a bum steer on this one.
Correct. No bum steers. athleticgreen.com/surf. /surf. Thank you. All right, Chaz, welcome back to the Grip for January 20th, remote recording. We still love Album Surfboards, but I'm in my home, you're in yours.
We're headed back to Album Surfboards week after next for a live in person.
Childcare will be fully implemented in 2 weeks from now, so we'll be back at Album. In this amount of time, though, Album Surfboards has picked up a new team writer in Jack Freestone.
Stinking Album does no wrong. Jack Freestone, I'll be honest, is one of my very favorites.
He's easy to love.
Love me some Jack Freestone. Not only his healthy vitamin D enriched lifestyle with wife Alana Blanchard, cute child or children. Do they have 2 or just 1?
They just had 2.
Yeah, cute children. And Jack rips. He's a ripping surfer and a fun chat, that Jack Freestone.
Is he?
Yeah. Have you ever chatted with Jack Freestone?
No.
Great guy. Love me some Jack Freestone. Smart, witty.
And I like, you said ripping surfer. I like the way that he surfs.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Adriano de Souza rips. I don't really care. I don't really want to surf like him. I wouldn't want my kid to surf like him. But Jack Freestone, it's like, God, style. He's got balls. He does big airs. He does big carves. He's got everything.
Does it all. I always like when the pretty boys like Jack Freestone fully charge, and Jack Freestone ain't afraid to drop into nothing.
Agreed. And then decided to pivot into family life and not do it half-assed.
A great dad by all appearances on Instagram.
Exactly. YouTube shows me that he's an excellent father. and also transitioned into living on Kauai, which is like, God, he is absolutely killing it.
I mean, the combination, I feel, of his hometown Gold Coast and Hawaii, Kauai specifically. I mean, not allowed to talk good about Kauai. Kauai sucks. Nobody should
Don't
ever
go.
go to Kauai. Kauai
It's
is
awful.
the worst of the islands. It's basically a rage-filled desert. You go there and you'll hate yourself. So don't go to Kauai, but
Go
you
to
should go to the
Oahu.
Gold Coast. Yeah, go to Oahu and then the Gold Coast.
Agreed.
Go to Surfer's Paradise.
Yeah. And so congratulations, Album Surfboards. Great pick.
I mean, fantastic. His album Surfboards, though, between Josh Kerr and Jack Freestone, going to pivot solely to American living Australians.
It looks that way. Asher Pacey hasn't made his move stateside yet, though.
Oh, but Australian.
He's still Australian.
Do you think Matt Parker from Album Surfboards has an Aussie kink?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
I mean, if you don't, you got a problem.
Yeah, I agree. Well, follow up from last week's episode. I was asking you about Quicksand. One Jeff Flint sent a story in. Can I read it to you?
Yes, please.
Who is Jeff Flint, first of all?
Jeff Flint is a phenomenal and legendary surf photographer who has captured some of the more iconic images of our day, including but not limited to many of Kelly Slater.
Beautiful. He said hello, by the way.
Love Jack Flint.
He said story about
Wait.
Quicksand.
Yeah.
What?
Jack ain't short for Jeff. Jack is short for
John.
John. That's it.
Yeah.
John Jeff.
Story about Quicksand. In 2005-ish, before surf camps, I was setting up with my tripod and a big 600 millimeter lens on the beach at Macaroni's. And I was trying to find a good angle to shoot. So I took a path between these trees and stepped in wet sand, and my foot sank fast. It looked like packed sand. And I tried to take another step in front of that, thinking that it was just soft sand. And then my other foot sank in. I was standing in sand, sinking with my camera backpack on, my camera in my hands, and my backpack on, and the sand quickly moved up to my knees. I lost my slippers and I was using my tripod to stabilize myself, but I just kept sinking. I was out on the Macaroni Point alone with all the surfers out on the boat or in the water, nobody around. I couldn't really yell because I was in the trees. I had to fall to the closest branch and then pull myself out. I literally got stuck for 30 seconds and was sinking. If there were no trees to pull me out, I might have sank more or fell into the sand. It was a surreal moment, but it's effing Indonesia, so it wasn't really that big of a surprise.
My goodness, a Quicksand horror stories from the front lines.
Crazy.
I mean, see, that's the best part about just spitting nonsense on the podcast. There's always someone who has experienced the reality of what we deem nonsense.
Totally. And I mean, the fact that they call it in, I mean, and it's not just anybody, it's Jeff Flint.
Legendary photographer.
So I do have just anybody also with expert advice if you'd like to hear from them as well.
Sure would.
This is our official Quicksand expert.
All right. This is for the grit. Quicksand. Quicksand is basically a collection of like a fine particulate, so like sand or silt and water. And when you step in it, you can sink down in it, but when you apply energy to it, then it'll stiffen up. So you can't pull your foot out of it. But here's the dumb part. Since it's made out of sand and water, those are both more dense than the human body because we have like air pockets in our lungs, obviously. So if you get stuck in quicksand, you will float in quicksand. You will sink up to your waist, and then you will stop sinking. So it is impossible to drown in quicksand. So all this fear, I say, is righteously undeserved. And we should truly celebrate quicksand. And maybe even, I don't know, try and get some quicksand surf comps in there. Stay stoked.
Stay stoked.
What I would love is for Jeff Flynn to go back to Macaroni's, step in that same patch, head on up to his waist, and just have a nice vacation.
Celebrate Quicksand, in fact.
Celebrating Quicksand. Love it. Man, I'll never fear Quicksand again. Not that I did before, but I never will now.
Well, I'm kind of looking for it now. I want to test out this guy's theory. I understand what he's saying, and it makes sense, right? Like, but it also makes sense that if it only, why does it only go up to your knees or your waist? Couldn't there just be a deeper, wider version of it that would take longer for you to fully sink into? And that depth could then be 6 feet rather than 3 feet?
Sure, but I think you're still going to float at some point. So even if it's mid-torso,
You just like lay down and roll out of it, or?
I mean, I don't think you're getting out. I think you're there forever, but you just have people feed you and whatnot. You just have a perpetual retirement right there.
Smart.
Yep.
You need people around. You do not encounter quicksand on your own, I think is the lesson we learned.
No, you need somebody to feed you grapes while you're stuck for the rest of your life.
One cannot survive on grapes alone.
Grapes and wine.
There you go. Pretty sure that's still grapes alone, but okay. Another listener emailed and said, I can't believe that Chaz fell for the Packers, quote, ownership scheme. Buying a share has no equity, no dividends, no ticket rights, and can't be traded. And it's not ownership. It's just a collector's item. The Packers are just a hot girl with a GoFundMe, and it's worked for decades. They have the money for the stadium improvements, but they dupe people out of millions anyway. Quote, shareholders feel like kings, but they are kings with no clothes.
Hey, who said I needed any clothes? I am so happy to be a professional football team owner. This listener's not. This listener doesn't own no football team. I own a football team.
I don't know. Do you? I mean, I guess this is kind of the reason why I brought it up, or why I even wanted to read it to you, is I think that this is worth it. The feeling of ownership, the feeling of participation, the feeling of being part of the community is what you're paying for oftentimes, right? Like with any GoFundMe, you aren't getting any of the things that he talks about as ownership. It's just supporting somebody's, sometimes it's an illness or a medical expense or something, but sometimes it's just an idea. It's just supporting their idea and being a part of it.
Also, I get voting rights, I think, I can vote on coaches and whatnot.
Can you?
I can vote on moves, yeah. I have like a portal that I go and vote on the team meetings. I also have a portal where I can go buy merch specifically for me that say like Packers team owner.
All right.
Yeah.
Then you are an owner. You are. Yep. I guess that is.
If I can buy merch that says team owner, therefore, thus, I'm an owner.
All right, done. All right, Fort Point follow-up.
Did you listen to the podcast?
No, I didn't. I will, but I didn't. I had all the intention to and just haven't made it to it yet. So this person, Kevin, emailed and said, hey, I'm following up on last week's episode about Fort Point. I went and surfed it last week, and there was 2 guys out, and the surf was fun. I'm a lifelong surfer and am not from San Francisco, but I live there. I live here now. When I got to the lineup after a few waves, one of the guys, he must have been in his 50s or 60s, he paddled over to me. He said, let me tell you what you're doing right. You showed up alone, you paddled out and didn't sit right next to us. You gave us priority on the waves that came, and we get a ton of problems here, but right now you're doing all that we ask. The other guy interjected and said, except for watching for the correct place to get in and out off the rocks. I thought to myself, wow, these guys get a reputation for being assholes, but all they want is proper etiquette, in line with what you and Chaz said. The advice to watch the right place to get in and out was, in fact, for my safety. Localism doesn't have to be negative.
Amen and amen. It's what protects places like anywhere that you like and makes it not like Noosa, where people are getting scalped.
What happened at Noosa? Did
you see that story?
No.
Dude got like fully scalped by, I think the story is that he got snaked from what I could tell from the story, it was a boy and his girl partner, right? Boy, I think, snaked the surfer, who made him fall off. Girl took off right behind, saw this dude sitting there, but just ran over him instead of trying to go around, and scalped him. 17
fin?
staples in the head. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And that's what happens when localism goes away, when there's no repercussions for anything. That's what happens. Scalping.
So there will be injury incurred one way or the other. In the localism scenario, it's somebody who is often deserving because they stepped out of line. In the wild, wild world that we're living in now, it's completely random and chaotic.
It's anyone. Could be you, could be me.
Scary.
Yep. Could
Super
be
scary.
Could be Jeff Flint, even.
Yeah. Well,
legendary photographer.
Well, what do you think about the concept of the locals paddling up and giving the guy praise?
I love it, because it is like, hey, encourage right behavior. Don't just discourage wrong behavior. Encourage right behavior, right? And this guy clearly knew, obviously, what the right behavior was, but it feels good to get the pat on the back. It feels good for all of us.
I thought that was an interesting move. I've never heard of such a thing about a local doing anything other than, dishing out consequence.
I've had the same. You've never had that happen to you?
I mean, no, I surfed pipe and backdoor when it was not what you think of as pipe and backdoor. And I was still, no, it was in February, but it was just not, there was, not a swell on it. And, but I was still as nervous as you would be if you were surfing it on a big day. And Tamayo Perry was one of the guys who was out, and he hooted me into a wave. And so, yeah, a right. And so I took that felt as much praise as I could ever possibly get. And it wasn't at all what this local was doing in Fort Point, but it was like, okay, that's approval. That's as much approval as I could possibly hope for out here. And it gave me the confidence to surf.
You should put a certificate on the wall with a frame around it, a mahogany frame. Tamayo Perry hooted me into a wave of pipeline.
Yeah. Backdoor. But yes.
Even better.
Yeah.
I paddled out at a North Shore spot that I won't name alone, and was just, sitting out and really slowly coming in, and then was brought on over and told lots of stories about that spot by a local, and then was given waves.
Aloha spirit, dude.
I was straight up aloha spirit at a highly localized spot.
Man, see, both the stories we just gave are in Hawaii, and I think aloha is the difference. I don't know how much aloha I expected out of Fort Point.
Except I think if you do, I think so much of it is waiting your turn, is not paddling straight to the peak, but totally. Plan on, if you're going to go surf one of those spots, sitting outside from it. Again, going alone is 100% the key, and sitting far outside, taking scraps, and then
or far inside.
Yeah, wherever, not sitting in the way, taking scraps, and you won't always get brought over, but yeah, you all these things take time, right? You slowly move in to where you need to be.
I agree. Yeah, I think that is the absolute takeaway. And that's what I was doing in that session that I described too. I was sitting way on the inside, even off to the side, and just hoping to get a little slingshot wave or something. And maybe he noticed that, and one was coming. He made a paddle for it and then decided not to go. And he saw me there and said, go, basically.
Are you sure he was not saying no?
100% positive. And my next thought was, well, this is going to be a closeout.
Yeah, perfect. But that's how you earn your stripes too. By taking the trash that locals hoot you into.
Totally. Well, that was a great story. Thank you, Kevin. And everybody listening to this should take that detail away: is etiquette. Be respectful, chill, let those guys have their priority.
Don't think too that these guys who have been, or girls who have been surfing somewhere for a lifetime, that you're going to get all yours in a day. Go, if you really want to surf somewhere, then go long-term, keep showing up at that spot. If you're a vacationer in and out, then it's not your right anyway. I got to go get mine, which is the foil border on the podcast shared, like basically that sentiment. I'm going to get mine. Like I need to get mine. I am there. It is by right mine. Like
Yeah.
having that attitude, it is by right. Anything in the ocean is by right yours. It's only by right yours if you put in hours upon hours, the 10,000 hours. Then you
Years.
can get yours.
Yeah, years and years. Having that mentality, ultimately, you're going to run into somebody else with that mentality. And that's where things are going to come to a head. So a couple of big things this week in the news, in surf news. Dahui backdoor shootout goes off. Caitlin Simmers said no thanks to the WSL. I want to package these both in one story. And that story is the WSL losing relevance in the modern surf world?
I mean, I don't think so, just because there's no competitor against it. Dahui shootout, as great as it is, a one-off, right? I mean, I think again, we've gone over and over this, how much money does it actually make, or how much money could be made off it, or, could it even theoretically support itself? Say it was somebody, some benevolent ruler who was not Dirk Ziff, said, hey, I'm going to set up a nonprofit. I never want to profit from this. I only want to make great surf content. I'll put the money in. Hopefully we'll recoup costs, and make it so it's, like a break-even scenario, nonprofit. I think that could really work. But outside of that, I think there's only one show in town, which is the WSL's greatest strength at this point. Is what are you going to do? You're not going to, you watch Dahui, doesn't have a great feed, particularly great surf, but I mean, there has to be someone who's willing, or an entity or person who's willing to, put the money in order to make a great product, but then not necessarily need to get anything out of it, which I think theoretically Dirk Ziff still needs to get something out. This is not a passion project for him, I don't think.
Okay. Let me approach this from a different angle then. Is there any way that the Pipe Masters can live up to how great the Dahui backdoor shootout was?
Unfortunately, yes, because just the coverage will be better. And by coverage, I mean the video will be better. The angles will be better. It's a more user-friendly experience.
It may reach more viewers,
but also
if you watch both events, you think the Pipe Masters can live up to it?
I mean, not in terms of waves, and not in terms of action, and not in terms of fun, but in terms of production quality, then it beats it. And then, how much as a viewer do you just crave a little bit of production value?
I would crave more from Dahui, but not the version that the WSL is giving. Like Dahui wasn't telling me necessarily what all the scores were. I didn't know who was leading in a heat. I didn't know what team.
But how many? What isn't there just basically a static camera and then a floating camera?
There was more than two angles, and there were occasional replays, but a lot of what you're saying is true. Like it was not, it had left a lot to be desired, and still it was radical and epic to watch, because the one thing that matters more than anything is man and woman versus ocean, man and woman versus Mother Nature. And so that was happening. And all that you really have to do is get out of the way of that. And sure, you can have better angles and you can have more of them, and you can have, replays and calling out the scores and all that. But resetting the topic as frequently as Joe Turpel does, and having the commentary team being front lit and not being allowed to say things, and all of that actually is unnecessary. And it actually takes away from the draw, and cutting away too commercial when the set that you've been waiting for is approaching the lineup. Things like that absolutely degrade the raw version of the experience. So the kind of what I'm working towards is the concept is Dahui fully understands it's man and woman versus nature. We're going to wait till we got the spot, and we're going to wait till the waves are pumping. And we've got the most qualified people to ride those waves in this event, including some of the WSL's own surfers and world champs and Pipe Masters. So that's what we're going to do. The WSL, I felt like, has lost that concept a long time ago. And while they've lost the concept, they've layered on all of this complication and limitation and bureaucracy that now requires them to operate a very different thing that barely has a morsel of the original thing still in it. And so when I watch the Dahui backdoor shootout, I almost don't care that they're not telling me the scores or anything like that, because it's just radical. It's just so radical, you know? And then I watch the WSL version and Felipe Toledo's out there not going on waves. And I'm like, why is he doing that when Benji Brand has no sponsors? Why isn't Benji Brand out here in the WSL event? Oh, well, it's because we have this tour and they qualified and there's and it's like, okay, I understand all of the reason how we ended up to where we're at, but I don't think the Pipe Masters can live up to the greatness unless all of the elements align. They have to have a million variables align, and then maybe they'll hit the greatness that the Dahui can hit by focusing on one variable.
I mean, I hear you. I totally hear you. In a perfect world, for a wave like Pipeline, the WSL would turn over broadcast to Dahui, right? They would, I mean, I know people disagree with me on this one, but even Dave Prodan himself, remember when they cut the Hawaiian wildcards down from 25 or whatever it was to 1.5? Prodan sent me a text like, just FYI, these 25 never go anywhere, right? Like they get chewed up in the first round and they're gone. Like, so it's not like they're actually influencing the event, et cetera, et cetera. Where I was thinking, I don't care at all about that. I love watching those guys surf. I love watching pipe experts out there, even if they're not going to win a heat, even if they don't have the, you know, competitive strategies down. Like that part of surfing is relatively lame, right? Like I totally get that you have to have that in order to win heats, that you have to play the priority game, and you know, all of that kind of stuff is part of the chess game of surfing, which I suppose is fine when you have a bunch of tour competitors on there, but that's not what makes surfing great, is like protecting your priority correctly, not allowing to go somebody on a wave.
That stuff only comes into play when you're not running in harrowing surf.
Yeah. But
you know,
but why doesn't, I mean, I know why they don't, but if the World Surf League said, okay, there is a Dahui out here, there is the Dahui, there's Dahui, just say, we're going to let them run the event. We're going to say, hey, you guys are going to run point on this event. Let's throw more. We did the experiment of cutting all the Hawaiians out. Let's throw a bunch more in. Let's run it like your event, and it'll be epic. Again, it's my big complaint, is treating surfing's rules and regulations as sacred. Who stinking cares? This thing did not start in, even if it started in 1976, that's not even that long ago, but it didn't even start then, right? There's multiple iterations. There was the IPP or whatever, then the ASP, now the WSL. Rules have been shifted around here and there, but like, I don't know why almost it shouldn't just be like a slam. The tour shouldn't be a slam series where every wave you have production and it's run by experts from that region who know how the wave works and know how to best, you know, present that wave. Where it be Dahui and pipe, it could be, I'm sure there's some, you know, Western Australia club or group or something that would do such a better job of the WA event instead of paddling people out at main break who know full on, okay, we have, you know, this is the swells the box works on, this is the swell Gas Bay works on, like all of that kind of stuff, all of those variables that are known expertly locally. Why not just turn it over to everybody? Give them a budget, run, make a production for us.
For a period of time, there was the sponsor of the event would provide their own commentators and largely their own production and all that sort of stuff. And
I mean, that was the Dream Tour years though, right? I thought that was,
and it worked. I
thought it worked. And where you got a different, you knew a Volcom event was going to feel different than a Billabong event, was going to feel different than a Quicksilver event. And it was a great, like the monolithic thing that is the World Surf League, I guess, trying to create a unified world title. But it's not like the world title was ever disputed in those, every event had a different sponsor years and a different look, flavor, feel.
And I think yeah, we got to find a middle ground somewhere, because there's probably limitations with that business model or limit, but I think the focus needs to remain on the one main thing, which is
Man versus nature.
man versus
Women
nature,
versus nature.
putting the best surfers in the best waves in the world, essentially. And then, yeah, everything else can kind of solves itself. There's always going to be these kind of extraneous details that you're going to need to solve for, but there's fewer of those if you just put the best surfers in the best waves. And Mason Ho, for the record, Mason Ho won the Dahui event. Balaram Stat got second. John Florence got third. Anybody would bet money on John, but there's no question that Mason Ho deserved to win this event. It's like it solves it. There was no paddling hassling. There was no priority battles. It was just Mason was the guy. And even John accepts it.
And to that end, like Mason Ho is never going to make it on tour, right? How much more fun is it to watch Mason Ho surf pipeline than somebody who struggled up through the QS surf pipeline? Like, yeah, sure.
Infinitely.
They did the hard yards, but I feel that every wave in the world has that element, right? Where, again, Western Australia has a crop of people who are more fun to watch surf there than somebody from the QS. And G-Land would have, there's Chopu, like, aside from a few kind of whatever, the beat, like France, Trestles, great. Bells, who cares, right? Like, I don't care who really surfs there, but the iconic waves, it's most fun to watch the best surfers there.
That's where the wild card comes into play.
I know, but there's two of them.
Well, yeah, and one of them is usually a sponsor wild card. It's not even necessarily a local surfer. And then also the structure of the WSL is so set in a way, in this format that's different than free surfing, that it's very difficult for that local shredder to translate to the format unless the waves are pumping. So so it's kind of like they should absolutely give Mason a wild card into the pipe event for the WSL. But if the waves aren't absolutely pumping, Gabriel Medina or even Zeke Lau is going to paddle battle him and run circles around him competitively, and Mason will get nullified, unfortunately.
I mean, that's the other thing too, though, is, and again, I know the business, and I know or I don't know the business at all. I know there is such thing as business, and I know like there are limits and all that, but I don't know why they don't set the tour, but don't have dates and play, or have places but not dates, and you just go on 4 days notice to where it's pumping.
They should.
Like, we know, like, cut it way down 6 waves: G-Land, Chopu, Pipe, J-Bay, and then just like go when it's pumping. Guarantee good waves.
So I packaged that question with Caitlin Simmers turning down her WCT spot. She qualified
through the challenge.
Qualified through the Challenger Series and then declined the spot and said she'll basically just requalify when she's older and more mature and ready to do it. That made me feel the same way as well, because about the WSL maybe not having as much relevance as it once did. When I was growing up, the ASP had the best surfers in the world on it. And, they had a dream tour version for a bit, and you wanted to be on there in that conversation. I feel like Caitlin, maybe she will requalify in a year or 2 or 3 and choose to do that. But if she doesn't, she can fully survive and exist without it. And she could even surpass the WSL's popularity kind of,
via TikTok,
via the way Sky Brown is attempting to do, like that. There's viable, not only career paths, but also viable, like visibility. You could be more visible than WSL and even be a better surfer. Like she could actually make an argument that she could be a better surfer than the world champ will be next year.
I don't know Caitlin Simmers, haven't chatted with her, don't know her parents, don't know really anything about her besides what I see on Instagram. I'm going to say that she just has good parents who know that she needs a couple years to mature her surfing. Who was it? Somebody good, somebody legit, a legitimate female surfer told me, I get so sick of the Caitlin Simmers is the next big thing argument. Like, they're like, yeah, she surfs really good, but she has some real chinks in her armor that she's got to work out before she's even in that conversation. Like, she's not ready yet.
Sure. Well, good. Let her go get ready. I think that's fair. That's a fair assessment. And a lot changes when you're on the world tour, traveling around the world. Like, that's a whole different thing to be good at rather than just, the fundamentals of surfing. But my point is kind of like the WSL or the ASP at the time was creating this thing that was like a vacuum that drew people to it. Like, that it was such a good thing that was progressing surfing. It was creating a format and bringing the people and putting them at the venues that created the progression. That was a vacuum that pulled talent towards it. I don't feel like that's the case anymore, is kind of what I'm saying. I could see Caitlin, what you said about Caitlin could be true. It could also be true that she saw the wave pool on the tour for the last 2 or 3 years that she was growing up. She saw the Ultimate Surfer and she sees the Caitlin Simmers brand and goes, I'm not sure that I necessarily want to be associated with those versions of surfing because they're not authentic versions of surfing as I know it.
Are you saying that the WSL is retarding surfing?
I think that they are not progressing it in the ways that, alternative form, like the Dahui backdoor shootout clearly just progressed it, or that Stab High event progressed aerial surfing, or things like that. I think all the limit, yeah, all the limitations.
Is what I hear you saying.
Well, retarding indicates that there's no progress at all. I don't think that there's no progress at all on the WSL.
I mean, slowing progress, actively retarding.
Yes, because sure, Gabriel Medina did a crazier air last year, 1 or 2 that like, we haven't seen that in competition before. But if it wasn't running at the, it could have been running at better events where you could do a crazier air than that. Like, or if you put it in a Stab High type format, it would have been an even wilder air. Or I would argue some of the airs they did at Stab High were better than the ones that Gabriel did in Australia. I think that's irrefutable, So there is little progress, but they're putting, as I've said before, they're putting F1 drivers in go-karts on the WSL. They're not giving them the chance to drive F1 cars in the most challenging tracks in the world.
We're days away from the start. Is there no excitement in your heart for Joe Turpel saying, and welcome back, Joe Turpel here, sitting alongside 89 world champ Martin Potter going to be back?
I don't know. We haven't seen Martin in a long time. I'm not saying I'm not excited for it. I do want to watch it. I'm excited for Dahui, and I see that I don't see that they could live up to what Dahui did.
Speaking of Dahui, or the start of the season, I should say, have you made your Surfival pick yet?
Of course.
Who'd you go?
Are we spilling this right now, or are we going to hold it?
I think we should spill, because we should allow ourselves, we could change up until the Hooter sounds, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Who'd you pick?
Surfival-league.com. It's $20 to sign up. I signed up last week. $20 for the whole season, not per event. And the grand prize is $3,000 and three Panda surfboards. Yeah, which is
a win-win-win.
I don't even care about any of that, to be honest. This is all ego and pride that I want.
All you need to do too for the Surfival League is pick the surfer. You don't need to pick the winner. You don't need to pick anything. You just need to pick the surfer who makes it past the round of 32, correct?
In that specific event.
Yeah, past the round of 32. You cannot pick the same surfer twice. And so, yeah, who'd you pick?
John.
You're gunning John early, burning him early.
Where else would I use him?
Margaret?
I'll pick Jack Robinson there.
I think John is a lock to get past the round of 32 in many events. So yeah, I pocketed John and went with Jordy Smith.
Ooh.
Michael Jordan.
Ooh, good. Keep him. I was gonna
Yeah.
try to explain all the reasons why you shouldn't, but you know what? Keep him.
Michael Jordan Smith, I feel, is revived. He's ready.
Dude, I've been saying that for 9 years.
He's year 10. He's back.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, if I get kicked out of the Surfival League on my first pick, I'm gonna be pretty mad.
You only have Jordy to blame.
I know, but that'll be a good story.
Actually, hey, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 9 times, shame on Jordy. Shame on me, actually. I love Jordy, dude. I love his surfing. I love everything about him. I want him to win a world title. That's a risky bet.
Michael Jordan.
Okay,
But
go for it.
just think, you burn, if he gets past the round of 32, whew, I don't have to use Jordy again. And I got everyone else in the holster.
Save him for J Bay.
Well, see, this is why I'm glad we talked about it.
I can't believe you even picked him. So when did you lose last season? How far did you make it?
I made it. I lost. Stinking eyes bigger than stomach. I lost on our boy.
Me too.
I picked him like passion pick. I was good, and I would have won that event too. There's no way I was picking stinking. Can't even remember his name now. Kyle. Yeah, picked Kyle. Law. That's where I went out. I would have done fine. When we were doing our sponsorship for him, I thought this is going to be rude if we're getting the people to pony up for Kyle, and I'm not willing to pick him to go. Then what kind of man am I?
Yeah, I think that's where I picked him at Rot Nest. I
Yeah,
think maybe we both did.
it.
We must have had
We
this
did.
conversation on air then. Yeah.
I mean,
And he
failed
fully,
us.
and I remember watching that heat too, just shaking my head like, you son of a gun. Like,
Yeah.
Such disappointment.
But it was the only right thing for both of us to do.
And we didn't know Rot Nest as a location. It was kind of a gamble no matter what.
But it didn't even matter. Like asking the people to put their monies where their mouths were. I put my money where my mouth was on him. I threw into the Project Abelli.
Yep.
And so to hedge Project Abelli seemed really rude.
Fair. Well,
Jordy,
let's not make that mistake again.
I'll never pick Kyle Belly.
Okay, can we go to, oh, by the way, for Survival League, you can only join before the season starts.
Yes.
So I think the
Hurry up and
29th,
join.
the 29th of January is the kickoff day for the Billabong Pipeline Pro. So sign up, then it's $20 for the whole season, $3,000 grand prize and 3 surfboards.
And I'll tell you what, it makes watching surfing that much more fun.
I agree.
Like having even $20 of skin in the game makes it fun.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't even care about the $20 nor the 3,000. It'd be amazing to get the 3,000, but I don't have any delusions that I will win that. I just want to beat you. I want to beat Scott. I want to beat our listeners. That's what it's all about.
I'm going to get that $3,000 by doing just that. Thanks, Jordy.
How will you spend it?
I will pay off credit card debt.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, do something extravagant.
Oh, I will. Okay, if I win it, I'm not going to do. Who am I kidding? Not doing that. If I win $3,000, I will buy a $3,000 pair of pants.
Perfect. Do those even exist?
I'll find them.
All right. Chad's going to be wearing gold pants in a year. All right. Back to the listener line.
Hey, Chaz and David Lee. This is Sean from Redding in Northern California, where it's a long drive to bad waves and cold water. Nice work pumping the subscriptions last week. You got me. Question is, who's the best surfer? Chaz, David Lee, or Scott Bass? Assume you guys will take this up on the Grit, which of the 3 podcasts is my favorite anyway, but I'm a big fan of all 3. Thanks for what you guys do.
Thanks, Sean. I've spent many, many, many nights in Redding, California.
Where is
Speaking of, Redding, California is like center north. It's on the 5 corridor, north, kind of below Shasta.
Is that okay? So north of Fresno and
Yes.
Surf Ranch. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, many nights trekking down from Coos Bay, Oregon to Southern California, where that would be the stop, is Redding, California. But anyhow, I'm going to say Scott Bass is number one surfer of us three. Scott surfs a lot. Scott goes on a lot of surf trips. Scott leaves his wife and family to surf on surf trips. So I have to go with Scott, and you and I should maybe have a surf off.
Okay, we will. But who do you pick without having? Do we surf together in New Smyrna?
We sure did. Oh wait, no, I wasn't surfing because my shoulder was out of socket.
Oh, okay.
Or was I?
I don't remember.
I surfed New Smyrna.
Yeah, I honestly do not recall.
Yeah.
Okay, so without our surf off, what would you wager?
I'm gonna go with you.
Okay.
I think you would beat me on the backhand. I think
Okay.
your backhand attack would be the thing that put you over the top.
It's funny. This question is so superficial and nonsense, except I'm like, yeah, who is the best? As soon as I heard it, I was just like fully engaged in this conversation.
Well, here's the thing, like as we all have ego, right? And
yeah, of
course, I don't think of myself as a phenomenal surfer. And so losing wouldn't even sting, to be honest. It would sting. Who am I kidding? But I truly think, speaking of other tours that could be launched, it would be really a lot of fun to make a Grit listener surf contest where show up and everybody put it on the line. Like, let everyone see how you surf. I'm sure some listeners out there absolutely shred. I'm sure some think they shred and would realize in competition, oh wait, I don't actually shred. There'd be some surprises. There would be some heartbreak. It'd be a great day for all.
We have former world champions that listen to the podcast, so I'd put my money on them.
Put it on CJ Hobgood. CJ Hobgood could finally win a legitimate title.
So I agree with your assessment. Scott Bass in our primes and right now, currently today, Scott Bass was the best surfer in both those scenarios. Scott's dedication to surfing is far beyond. Maybe my dedication might have been that strong for 5 to 8 years, maybe, of my life, from like teenage 15-year-old until early 20s. But I have long since lost that level of dedication and started focusing that energy on other things. And Scott has maintained that dedication for 40 plus years. And he's charged big Puerto Escondido. He surfed waves that I have no interest in surfing and never did. And he still surfs every single day, pretty much. When the waves are good, bad, otherwise. And he's ridden competitively, longboards, shortboards, everything, SUPs. So yeah, I think Scott would take the cake. But between you and I feel confident. I would really put my A game on and try to take this title from you.
I mean, it is time for the surf off. I don't know how we can let this live.
I think so. I think it is.
Which
call
the
spot.
Yeah, which spot?
I will equally underperform no matter where you put it.
I'm going to say Huntington Beach. I think we go where the U.S. Open of surfing is.
Fine with me. Let's do it.
The pier. We're going to go the north side of the pier, though.
This is my zone. I'll lead you to the best spot.
We could do Golden West.
Yeah.
I'd be down with the Golden West. We could fight with the NSSA kids out there on early morning.
There's little sandbars up and down, depending on what's going on, that there's always something working.
I'm excited. To surf off.
Me too.
Thanks,
this listener actually called back for a follow-up call. So let's hear what he had to say.
David Lee, Chaz, it's Sean in Redding again. Second message in a week, but I wanted to follow up because my question is who you guys think the best surfer among the three is. David Lee, Chaz, or Scott Bass, but I figured I should probably tell you who my listening. So if I had to rank you just listening, not knowing a ton about your surfing, I'd say probably Scott Bass is the best, even though he's the oldest. I bet he's still the best. And then David Lee, and then, sorry, Chaz, maybe it's just because you talk so much shit about how bad you are, but I would guess Chaz is the worst. All right, guys, get barrel.
I like
Sean,
Sean even more.
Sean has his finger on the pulse, but Sean, I'm gonna go out and prove you wrong. Pick me for your Surfival.
That's true. We should get Taylor to set up a Survival, a special edition.
We sure should.
That'd be incredible. Okay. Remember last week I said somebody needs proposal advice?
Oh man, I love this.
All
This
right,
is
here we
where
go.
I'm better than
Yeah,
Scott. And
David. This is actually, keep this anonymous because pretty sure my significant other listens to the Grit as well. So related to the honeymoon and surf destination topic, I'd like to flip that and say, would a proposal at a surf destination be an adequate proposal? Just for some context, I've been dating this girl for about 3 years. Pretty sure she's the one. And I'm going on this 2-month-long surf trip this summer to the South Pacific, and brought this idea to her, pitched it, 2 months doing long distance, and she flipped it back on me and said, hey, how about I just come for the back half of it? So she'll be coming to Bali with me for 2 weeks. And I figured if she's willing to travel halfway across the world to meet me on a surf trip, these are all pretty good signs for a long-term relationship. But I was thinking about it. Do I propose then, or is it kind of whack to propose in the midst of a surf trip? So anyways, curious your guys' thoughts. And I love the podcast, and hope to hear your advice.
this right here.
I hope that he hired a voice actor to read that.
I mean, the thought, if his gal does listen and doesn't know his voice, then he's in a special relationship.
Or she doesn't connect the dots that she agreed to go to Bali.
Yep. It's really great. It's all really great. But to both of you, totally do it. There's absolutely nothing wrong about proposing on a surf trip whatsoever. A proposal's fun to begin with, right? Like, doesn't matter really where you are. No such thing as a bad proposal. There's only a bad proposer. That's number one. Number two, Bali's totally beautiful and great. My only advice would be, don't just do it on the sand. Don't do it at Kuta. Don't do it at Seminyak. If I was this anonymous listener who's going to Bali and his girlfriend has agreed to join him there, I would pick, where would I do it in Bali? You've been to Bali, haven't you, David Lee?
No, I haven't. But I was thinking, there's no time to waste. Do it in the airport when you pick her up. Do it as soon as possible. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the airport in front of the crowd or anything like that. But I've bought 2 engagement rings in my life.
Ooh, what?
Made
Good thing
2
Lauren doesn't
proposals.
listen to this podcast. Oh, did you propose to Lauren?
Yeah. Lauren and I
When?
are engaged.
Oh, I didn't know that. When?
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know when it was. It was a couple months back. I mean, it was prior to us having a kid.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So how did you propose, real quick?
I can't share that on air. I'll tell you off air.
Okay. If I was this listener, though, I would drive to Uluwatu and do it there. Uluwatu is picturesque.
Beautiful. Absolutely stunning. So, but my thought is just once you have that ring in your pocket, it's burning a hole in your pocket. Like once you commit to the idea, my experience is you don't need that idea to stay with you. You don't want to keep that idea to yourself. Like it needs to be shared. And there's one person who deserves to know that more than anybody in the world. And so as soon as you can, do it. And so I would say as soon as she lands, and you want to spend that vacation reveling in the excitement of the proposal. So you might as well get as many days as you can in that revel.
Except what if
revelry.
what if the two have never traveled together and she's an awful traveler. And he realizes midway through, this is never going to work.
So you're saying he buys the ring, realizes this was a mistake, and then backs out?
Yeah. Without the
No.
proposal, that's all fine and good.
No.
Yep.
I would trust that he knows her well enough to know that she is an adequate traveler, adequate partner for travel. And you party, you rage through this whole vacation together because you're engaged.
I hear you. But I'm going to say, give it a couple days and then go to Uluwatu and do it there.
Okay. Anonymous listener, you have both of our advice. You're going to have to decide what to do now. And your girlfriend can probably help you decide, because I have a feeling she's identified who you are through this.
She for sure can. But still, okay, so here's the thing about proposals. I'll tell you mine on air to Cersei Wallace.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I told Cersei day one, maybe even day two, that she was going to marry me. I just told her she was, and I didn't propose. I just said, you're marrying me. And then, like, I overheard her, or we were talking to somebody, and she was like, oh, I didn't get a proposal. And I should have stuck with just telling her. So then I drummed up a super cheesy, did something cheesy on purpose. It's so awkward, right? Getting down on your knee, and the whole thing is just weird and awkward. I already told her we were getting married, so why did I have to propose? But then did, and wish that I never proposed. It's so, to this listener, maybe don't propose. Tell her you're getting married.
Okay.
That's my advice.
So much I need to unpack here. You told her on day 1 or 2, we're getting married.
Yes.
You were married within 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So at which point did she say to a friend, I didn't get a proposal? Because 3 months isn't long enough to transpire to where she would have expected a proposal.
No, it was like an offhanded comment somewhere, like, oh, I didn't get a proposal.
Because you were planning the wedding or something?
Yeah, the wedding was, I don't even know if the wedding was really being planned at that point, but it must have been. There's 3 months is not a long time. So the wedding must have been being planned. And it was like an offhanded comment that I took seriously. I thought, oh, shoot, I guess I need to propose. You don't need to propose to this anonymous listener. What you should do is just tell your girlfriend you're getting married, and that's it. Give her a ring, say, we're getting married. Don't say, will you marry me?
Our advice is so divergent on this one.
You
Because
tell
I think there's few moments in life that have that are allow for such grand romantic gestures, and this is one of the great ones. And enjoy it.
Guess what? We're getting married. You can say that. You can buy a nice bottle of Veuve Clicquot and say, hey, by the way, we're getting married, and then just shove a ring on her finger.
So you ultimately did propose then, and what was that like, or how did that go?
It was dumb and awkward. It was on the Venice Beach Pier, the worst place I could think. And then I did, and it was just dumb because I already told her we were getting married. So why am I asking you now?
Did she cry? What was it? Emotional?
No.
Was it romantic?
No, she smirked and said, this is dumb. The whole thing was dumb. And in retrospect, I wish I could cancel the proposal.
Man, all right. The romance continues.
Yep.
Hey, honey, can I cancel? And actually, I'm not asking if I can cancel it. I just canceled it. You should be aware. I canceled our proposal.
Perfect.
All right. Well, there's some good advice. I've got another listener line call, maybe 2 actually. All right. Here we go.
Hello, David and Chaz. This is Shukin calling from Hawaii. Just a quick question. I'm watching the Grit January 14th Barrel or Null, where you're talking about dogs. Both being dog lovers, how do you feel about dogs in baby carts? Getting one of those baby things and taking your dog for a push. All right, keep up the work. Love you guys.
Okay, I'm going to jump in real quick. A baby cart is also known as a baby stroller. I've not heard of them as carts before. Maybe it's a Hawaii thing.
But I do think they do have specific, I will, to this caller's credit, they do have specific strollers for dogs. And so what would you call that? A dog stroller, I suppose. But you could
Yeah,
also call it a dog cart. But
I'm
he
going
did
with
call it a
stroller.
cart for babies, didn't he?
He didn't call it a car for babies. And I also love that he didn't turn down the podcast in the background. At the beginning of the call, you can hear you and I talking. So he was still watching the podcast on YouTube and then calling in at this without pausing
Beautiful.
it.
That's what I call passion right there. Passion for answers. And I'll give you a good one right here. There's one great thing to do with dogs. David Lee, I think you know what that is.
I'm going to edit this out.
There's a second great thing to do with dogs, which is take them on walks. If your dog cannot walk or doesn't want to walk or doesn't like to walk, then guess where your dog goes? Home. It just sits at home. All good.
Right.
Your dog doesn't need to go out if your dog doesn't want to walk and or can't walk. So I will say no baby carts for dogs ever.
I fully agree. And the reality is, when people have the dog in the baby cart, I don't think it's because the dog can't walk. I think it's just like
Spoiled dog.
yeah, it's a spoiled dog. It's their like novelty, pretty thing. They want to show off the fancy baby cart that they bought. That dog probably needs exercise more than my dog, who gets 3 walks a day. So it needs to be outside the baby cart.
I am forever calling strollers baby carts from this day forward.
So I take my dog and my baby for, like I said, 3 walks a day on average. But the other day, the dog needed attention early in the morning. So I took her out by herself without the baby, and we passed a mom and a baby cart. My dog freaked out because the only time she's ever seen a baby cart is when Austin is in it. And he saw this baby cart with some other mom pushing it. And she was just like, what the heck? What is happening? Where's the baby going?
Did your dog think that a woman was kidnapping your child?
I think so. She wasn't going to attack the woman. She was just confused.
Good dog.
Yeah.
That's a nice protective dog right there. Yeah. No baby carts. If your dog cannot handle being outside for whatever reason, maybe it gets attacked by other dogs, maybe it's had trauma, there's one thing to do with that dog. And the other thing is to keep it inside.
Yeah, I agree. Baby carts for dogs, no barrel at all.
Nope.
By the way, I like my favorite part of that call was when he signed off and he said, keep up the work.
Yeah.
He didn't say keep up the good work.
Nope. Just keep filling hours. Keep filling meaningless hours with your jibber jabber.
I mean, truly, that's the sentiment that I got from that. Much like our caller from Reading, he actually called back with a second call as well. So we have that.
Hey, this is just a follow-up to my dog question about pushing them in the cart. When I was a kid, we had a dog. It was born with no arms and no legs. We called it Cigarette. We used to take it out for a drag.
That's a pretty good joke right there. I so wish it was true. Midway
That's our
through,
first...
I thought he really did have a dog with no arms, no legs named Cigarette.
That's our first listener line joke call in.
Dad joke.
It's fair to Midland. I'm not going to give it an A, but I appreciate the effort.
Good, solid work.
The reality is he saw that. He's like, God, when are dogs ever going to come up in conversation? And like, I've got an opportunity here to use a joke that I remember from 20 years ago. I'm going for it.
Well done.
All right. Are you ready for the final listener call of the day?
Yep.
Hey, this is Chris from San Clemente. Just finished watching pretty much all of the Dewey shootout, and it was very nice of them to add a girls' heat. But what I think we need to start pushing is the idea of one girl minimum on every team. Discuss.
So at the Dewey Backdoor Shootout, they had a women's team. So for three women, but on one team that all surfed together on that team against obviously the men's teams. But what are your thoughts on that call?
I, for one, love the idea of team surfing to begin with, right? I mean, old Brad Gerlach, legend in the surf game, phenomenal coach, making a whole martial arts of surfing called Wave Kai. Just kidding. It's Wave Key. And you can go to Wave Key and sign up for personalized surf coaching from Brad Gerlach himself. But the idea of teams, surf teams, I really love. How much fun would it be? And how much better, not that women need to progress super quick, but how much more progressive or how much quicker would the progression be, I will say, is if, say, there was a league comprised of 3 guys and 1 girl on each team. How epic would that be?
I think it would be epic. And I had 2 distinct kind of thought processes with that processes. I thought it's not nice of the Dahui to put them in there. Like, they earn their spot in. And
Wasn't
so
Beth Hamilton one of them?
yeah, it was Bethany Hamilton, Kiala Kenley, and Moana Jones Wong. So there's 4 spots on the team. I just can't remember there being a 4th female surfer. So there was those 3 for sure. But so my thought is, no, we don't need to mandate, oh, you have to have a 4th person on your team or a woman on your team. It's just, if you earn your spot, then sure, then you get entry into a team. Or if that team decides this is the most qualified surfer, then you put them on your team, right? Like, gender shouldn't be considered in this equation, nor should it be mandated.
Except yeah,
that's my second line of thought, which is probably what you're getting at, is at this stage, you almost need to mandate it in order for that progress to really get its teeth in, because those girls have not had the same opportunities in all these other, in the decades leading up to it. And so now it will be a slow roll towards equilibrium or equal result, let's say, because the access has been limited up until now. So I think that, there could be an interim period of time where you mandate access and let those who want to step up. And if there's enough spots if there's enough women who want to fill those spots to fill them, then fantastic. And then I think we would see progress happen a lot more quickly. I don't like the idea of mandating or like dictating, I guess, the outcomes and creating equality of outcome. But I like the idea of creating equality of opportunity.
I mean, I would just think it'd be real fun if there was, like, say, 10 surf teams of 4 surfers each, one of which had to be a woman, and they would surf again. Those teams would surf against each other, like the chess games and whatnot. Would be pretty fun. And I think, especially at waves like high good waves, it'd be super fun to watch the women go. And I mean, again, not only will the progress go through the roof, I think progress is going through the roof. We've talked about it before on the show, that the biggest growth potential right now in surfing is younger women, right? Yeah, like, it's the Caitlins, it is the Sierra Kerrs, it is this crop of surfers have the potential to be even, I'm going to go out and say it, more exciting than their male counterparts of the same age, right? Like, totally. Are you as thrilled at any young boy? That's an inappropriate question, but are you as thrilled by the potential of any young man as you are that of, say, Sierra Kerr, watching what she does, watching where she goes?
Strangely, that's not the most inappropriate question that you posed on this show. No, the answer is no. When I see a clip of Aaron Brooks, I'm like, oh, stop what I'm doing. Let me see what she did.
Yeah. And are you doing that? How old is Aaron Brooks?
14.
Yeah. Are you as excited about any 14-year-old boys?
No.
Jack O'Dorian, how old is he?
I mean, he's in that same range of age, but no, I'm not as excited. I'm curious to see what Jackson's up to, but Aaron Brooks, I stop what I'm doing to watch.
Yeah. The potential, the growth, the ceiling is, so much. I mean, it does feel like, I mean, again, we've talked about on the show, like a massive sea change coming up in the age, 12 to 15-year-old girls that are going to come on tour and just blow, or I don't even know if they go on tour, wherever they go, will blow expectations of what women's surfing is right away. Yeah. And they'll be like pre-2022 for and post 2024. And
I
it's going
agree.
to just be a whole new kind of surfing.
Totally agree. The other idea I liked about this, putting one female in each heat, it reminds me there's every surfer who came to the North Shore, let's say every male surfer who came to the North Shore, from the Hobgood brothers to Aton Osborne now, and people before and in between, have the story of showing up and not wanting to paddle out. They heard the waves in the dark, not wanting to paddle out. And then whoever it is, the big brother, Doug Silva on the beach, or whoever their local hero was from home, who's now a transplant on the North Shore, says, no, here, use one of my 7-foot boards and let's go paddle out. And you're getting forced to do this. And so I envision that happening at the Dahui event if they mandated one woman in each heat, because there would be the 3 or 4 girls who just put their hand up and go, I'm down, I'm joining a team. And then there'd be 8 more spots to fill and a bunch of females hemming and hawing. But you really want the rest of the team to pull them around by the shoulders and just go, no, come on, we got your back. We'll show you which waves to go on. Come with us. We'll show you the ropes. Take one of my boards and we'll go out there and do this. I think that would expedite the progress real quickly.
I hear you. And I think you see, people out shredding Pipeline, of course, and it's just kind of assumed they have preternatural talent and preternatural ability to do that, like to read the ocean, to read the waves, to know when to go, to know where to sit, all that stuff. Nobody, but maybe John Florence, maybe that, a handful were born, Jamie O'Brien, were born with kind of a preternatural understanding of Pipeline. Everybody else, like I just saw a clip, I think it was on, I love the Stab shout outs today, Stab's Instagram of, who was it? It was Colapinto.
Crosby Colapinto at backdoor.
Exactly. Dropping in. I mean, Crosby Colapinto is a San Clemente kid, right? He is not like a North Shore charger. Dropping in so deep backdoor, some long-haired guy burns him. Crosby comes shooting out of the barrel, clearly says something. The other guy goes over the falls. It's a wonderful clip. But thinking, Crosby Colapinto from San Clemente didn't just go to the North Shore and know how to do it right away. I mean, maybe he did. I can't imagine that he did. For sure, he was with somebody who, at some point, who paddled him out, showed him where to sit, showed like the handing that down from surfer to surfer is a real thing. And yeah, to not do that with girls, I mean, I'm sure it's already happening, but why not speed that up?
Well, it can happen with 3 other people in the water, when the waves are guaranteed to be pumping, because that's when they're running the event. And so that's a unique opportunity that nobody else has been granted access to. And yeah, I think it's time. I think, it'd be epic.
Love it. Bring the game back.
It would give an unbelievable opportunity for somebody to really stake their claim, to rise to stardom. The names that we've already said we expect, but what if it's some random, like in this Dahui event, Kala Grace got a 12-point ride at Pipe. I've never heard of Kala Grace before. He is now on everybody's radar because of that wave that he got. Yeah, it is.
Great name, Kala Grace.
Totally.
Do you think that what's Wong's first name again?
Moana
Wong. She should do a collab with Aussie Wright, where she is Moana Wright, because he's already Aussie Wrong. I guess that's kind of that's not cool. Never mind. I really had a good thing going in my brain there. Moana Wright is pretty good though.
Yeah. All right. Well, shall we go to commercial and then come back with Barrel or Nah?
Let's do it.
All right, Chaz, back from commercial.
Exciting. You don't have to listen to those commercials.
How do you avoid them?
So what you do is you subscribe for $5 a month, and then not only do you not have commercials to listen to, you get entered in some surfboard sweepstakes, but most importantly, you have the warm glow in your heart knowing that you are making this possible. You alone are an owner. Just like I'm an owner of the Green Bay Packers, You are an owner of the Grit Podcast and the entire Surf Splendor Network.
You are an investor in the future. You're
$5 a
investing.
month.
I know it's a no-brainer, truly.
Better than
Sean,
crypto.
Sean from Reading did it.
I mean, look at follow Sean from Reading.
Exactly.
Baby carts.
He knows
Sean
what he's
from Reading
doing.
just
That was different.
recoined. Oh, that was
Sean from Reading wanted to know who the best surfer was.
Oh yeah. Sean from Reading.
And also, though, you get free access. I mean, everybody has free access to the listener line, but we
It's
are more
freer.
likely to play your call. How's that?
Yep. Yeah. Perfect.
You said better than buying crypto. Are you buying the dip on crypto right now?
The wife bought some crypto recently, so I suppose as a family we're buying the dip.
Okay, cool. All right, barrel or nah, the polar plunge.
Barrel on jumping into cold water. Tell you one of the best places to jump into cold water. You ready for this, David Lee Scales?
Tell me.
You've seen the movie, I think, and maybe we've even talked about it. There is a spa in Switzerland called the Waldhaus where they filmed Youth, exactly. So the Waldhaus is one of the best spas I've ever been to. Fantastic. But right out of the sauna there in the winter, there is a lake or a pond, I should say, frozen over with, a chunk of the ice cut out for the polar plunge aspect. And it feels so good to go from the sauna into the plunge is like electrifying. Doing it for Instagram and or Facebook and or for any cause is dumb.
Yeah. I subscribe to all of the therapeutic and medical benefit, physiological, biological benefit of ice baths, and all of that. But the polar plunge thing is, I think, a New Year's tradition, where everybody gets together. I think it's on New Year's Day usually, and they all just hype each other up and dive into the frigid ocean, even if it's not frozen.
I mean, that's the thing, though, is really anybody can do that. You're with a bunch of people. Who cares, right? Being cold for a couple seconds, big deal.
It's shocking how much freaking bravado it takes. Like, it's the most instinctual thing in the world. Like, vestiges of humans past are coming out of you, like are embedded in you that make you afraid. You can have all the bravado in the world. As soon as your foot touches that cold water, everything in you wants to run the opposite way.
Slam those ancestral voices down and steel your spine. It's just cold, for pity's sake. It's not pain. It's not anything other than being, oh no, I'm cold for 2 seconds. Not like somebody's asking you to go swim laps out there. You're cold for a real short time.
Well, this came from a listener, and he said, I wanted to shout out Rob Kelly on Instagram. He's a New Jersey surfer. He's an epic surfer, by the way, but he guess he's been in a lot of the Ben Gravy videos. And he says, anyways, he's doing this polar plunge New Year's resolution where he's going into the Atlantic every single day for the year. I mean, blizzards, howling winds, temperatures in the low 20s, and the water gets colder and coldest into February and March. He's going out when the waves are good and catching waves in board shorts.
I mean, that's something else.
Atlantic. He goes, I'm sorry, but that's crazy and badass. And I think he deserves a shout out. Cheers, Bruce.
100%. And to go do it just to like plunge and get out, it's one thing. Anybody can do that. To go surf in board shorts in frigid conditions is another entirely. So yeah, Kelly gets a big shout out.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen Brett Simpson was doing this a month or two ago, maybe December. He paddled out and caught a bunch of waves in trunks here in Huntington. And I'm just like, dude, and maybe it's just for Instagram for all I know, but it's like, I would not be able to stand up and rip a wave in trunks in 55-degree water. I could tough it out, but I wouldn't be able to catch waves, focus, shred, any of that.
Good on Simple.
I know. Good on him and Rob. Barrel or nah? Golf.
Funny. I'm a no barrel on golf, personally. I don't enjoy it. and I don't also enjoy the lifestyle kind of that goes around with it. Like I don't care necessarily for the clothing and for the driving around in carts, and I'm gonna just, talk myself into a full no barrel.
I'm feeling the same way. I
There's
enjoy
nothing about golf I like.
I enjoy playing when I play. I play with my dad probably once a year. And I enjoy that, but the connection that it has to surfing makes me want to distance myself entirely. Like the fact that Kelly and Julian and Kanoa and all these guys are so into it makes me want to have nothing to do with it.
Our friend Kevin Miller, when I see his Instagrams of golfing, I think you look like a turkey, man. You and all your friends look like a pile of turkeys.
You have to dress ridiculously.
Like, there's the Payne Stewarts and whatnot. There's been golfers who do like the traditional thing. And I will say, I don't know when golf got lame looking, because I look at old pictures of like Jack Nicklaus and like legendary golfers where they were in natural fibers. Maybe that's it. Maybe athletic wear is what wrecked golf for me. That if guys were out there with slacks and button-up shirts, then I would think, okay, that's good. That looks masculine. Right now, golf looks like yoga for men.
Men with bellies that are overhanging their khakis.
And they're not even cotton khakis. They're like
Right.
some synthetic fibered khaki. That's the
Right.
problem. Okay, I've solved it. I would love golf if people wore natural fibers to play golf in.
I like it. Barrel on that, no barrel else otherwise.
Any other kind of golf.
Final barrel or not, safari hats, with the string that ties it up.
No barrel. I've never seen one in the lineup that I thought that's worth not getting sun cancer for, skin cancer.
And it doesn't have to be in the lineup necessarily, but like I said, I'm going on 3 walks a day right now. I have one of those hats for Central America. If you're sitting on the beach, and I've worn it outside now on my walks, and I take a look in the mirror in a reflection of a car window as I'm walking down the driveway, and I go, holy cow, I'm in full dad mode right now.
Yeah, no, if you have one of those, I mean, you're best to toss yours away too, but anyone listening, if you have a safari hat that ties around the chin, don't Goodwill it. Salvation Army it.
Well, then it just goes to somebody else. Maybe go straight trash can.
But except you're filling a landfill with it, then there's got to be something. Maybe make it a planter. Put some dirt in it and plant a flower.
Okay. Now, what if my hat is made out of natural fibers?
That's better. Even then, though, I'm going to say there is no place other than safari. And if you're on safari, you should wear a pith helmet.
Okay. I will invest in those.
I mean, if you wore a pith helmet out when you were pushing your baby in the baby cart, that would be a fine look all around.
Nobody will mess with us, that's for sure.
Nope.
They might call the cops on us, and I might get pulled over for questioning, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I can handle
Friendly
that.
chat.
I could talk my way out of that.
Sure.
All right. Well, hey, get your Survival League picks in before our next show.
Do it and call in with who you're picking and why.
There you go. Perfect. I love it.
We could do a little survival chit chat about why your pick is awful.
I would love to hear a worse pick than Jordy.
I mean, should I hold Jordy or am I going out? He'll make it through the round. Jordy will make it through past the round of 32.
He's also injured.
Is he? I thought
he's coming back. He's coming back from injury.
I feel that when you have like the spark of coming back from injury, he'll have one good event before he gets injured again. And then I would have used him.
All right. Then
feeling good.
Go with that. Keep it. All right. We'll see how that all shakes out. All right, Chaz, good show at Surf Journalist, beachgrit.com. Anything else you need to promote?
Not off the top of my head. I think we're good.
Okay. Back on Zoom next week, then back at Album the following week.
Exciting. I'll be in Jackson Hole next week. It'll be live from the snow.
Good job, man.
Yep.
Living the life of Riley. Enjoy.
That's great.
All right. Until next week.
Get barrel.